Hello everybody. Welcome to the Dutch Sci-Fi and Fantasy channel. Welcome to Queen Charlotte and welcome to Sadeko.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, everybody.
Yes, we're going to talk about the campaigns of Third Doctor today, and we have 1 week to go to finally see the season finale of Jodie Whittaker. And so next week will be full of streams on YouTube about that topic. We also do that here on next Monday, in a short stream to share some things about it. I think you also will be doing streams about it, Queen Charlotte, and
you go first.
On other channels. So we will discuss that in.
I'm going to be popping up on some review and just talking streams about it afterwards.
Yeah, that's right. So there will be long nights, and because it will be on 7:30 p.m. I think in the UK.
Yeah, 90 minutes. So it is going to be a long
8:30.
A long night for me.
A long night. So I don't know. But you don't have to participate the whole night. You can also.
Obviously, I'll watch it, and then on Dan, the Spacebook will be going live that night, doing a live stream review. So I'm going to be on there.
Mm-hmm.
Charlotte, you're a bit of a you mic. I mean, it's.
I know it's lovely and crackly. I can't really do much with it.
I thought it was my mic, but
no, it's mine. Trust me.
Okay. So, yeah.
Oh, but I'm not doing any stream, but I probably will do a pre-record on Wednesday about
on
your
channel.
Yeah, I'm undecided about whether I'm going to be watching the finale, but so if you do a stream about it, I'm probably going to just be watching and think, okay, sounds like the episode went well, or sounds like the episode didn't. I didn't see it.
Yeah. People are free to watch it. I understand it. But I think, I want to have a good opinion and with good arguments. So I'm watch. And by the way, I'm curious how things will develop in that season finale. And who should we generate in? We don't know. Nikuti or maybe David Tennant. We don't know.
We kept guessing.
Yours is 1 hour and a half. So it's a long episode. I think it's more like a movie.
Yeah.
So as I don't know what we will see. We will see. I think so. We will see Ace and Tegan and maybe more people, classic characters. I hope. But I hope also that the characters will be the same, but I don't know. As in the classics, we don't know how they write these characters in the special. We will see. But we are now on the Third Doctor today. John Pertwee with his companions. We had in previous streams about all the doctors, now all the companions, and we have discussed the Third Doctor in the past, and now we highlight the companions of this Doctor. And what is typical about this era of this Doctor is that he works close to the units, and he is also in his era. He is mostly on Earth because he's exiled. That's in the previous Doctor is exiled, and then he regenerates in the Third Doctor, and he meets units in first time with a certain character named Ledbert Stewart, who's now a brigadier.
Well, he first met unit and the brigadier in the second Doctor era, but
that's right.
This is the first time he's actually set up, but it's the brigadier's first meeting of the Third Doctor, so it's like, but this is where he. Yeah.
I was going to say the difference is obviously with him being earthbound, they're a lot more of a presence. They're a lot more of sort of him working with them, combined in comparison to what the second Doctor was, where it was just like a fleeting sort of, oh, I know you, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And also, heel stereotypical is he works. He has companions of the same time period. The first time, because the first Doctor and second Doctor had companions from different time periods, and this is the Doctor with doctors from the same time period. So it's also one thing I noticed. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I think the unit story is meant. I think the unit story is meant to be set slightly a few years in the future, but like so that, like, for instance, like in 1975, but when he meets Sarah Jane Smith, apparently for her it's 1980, but it was 1975 when it was shown, obviously. But so it's slightly, they're all kind of, about 5 years ahead. So this is kind of the idea that this is the future of the near future.
Yeah, but obviously because he hasn't got a working TARDIS, it is quite a more contemporary type of companion. Indeed. Compared to Jamie or Victoria or Barbara or Ian.
Yeah, it's true.
Is the volume of the mic, by the way, good? Or
yes.
is low? It's good. Yeah. So this my testing method. There's no mic for me. I'm very happy with this mic.
No, it sounds good.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Unit is also with John Benton. Is first corporal, later sergeant. And we have got Captain Mike Yates. And so that these are the three main characters in Unit. And you see the dynamics between the third Doctor and the teen units. Is not in the beginning. It is not so work not so well, but you see it more and more develop. And we have discussed in the past also that the relationship between the Brigadier and between the Doctor is becoming more and more close, more they understand each other more. They know about each other, what to say and what to do, and that's very interesting. So I don't know what you all think about, but Lethbridge Stewart is for a little bit of a companion in that little bit because of the relationship between them. What do you think?
Yeah, he's a companion, but not like the traditional companion. He doesn't really.
Yeah.
Does very little traveling with the Doctor. It's more kind of
not traveling. Yeah.
He's an acquaintance more than. Yeah, but it's if you know what I mean. Like he's not. The adventures he has are very different to the adventures other companions have had.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because it's a very different setup. Like the Brig, in some parts, he's almost like his boss, his superior. Yeah. But then in other parts, because the Brig's military and he has no real scientific knowledge, the Doctor's his boss in that regard. Like when it's something sciencey, he looks to the Doctor. So it's sort of weird sort of working relationship, isn't it, they've got?
Yeah.
And I'd say, you definitely see, I would say it's respect, just gradually in the third Doctor's era build up between the two of them.
Yes. And in the beginning, there's some irritation also with the Brigadier and by the Doctor. And it's mostly because the Brigadier thinks the Doctor is somewhat, he behaves superior for that.
Well,
and also some seems on disregard to his authority, I think.
Well, the second thing is the second Doctor, when he met the Brigadier, he seemed fond of the Brigadier, but the third Doctor's kind of a bit of a personality, different kind of personality, and it feels like now the personalities are clashing because the third Doctor he doesn't like having to work for Unit. He doesn't like having a boss.
Yeah.
And obviously, there are often situations where he disagrees with the military methods, and like the end of the Silurians is a big one where, well, for much of the Silurians, in fact, the Doctor is very, very skeptical that the military are going to screw this encounter with the Silurians. The Doctor's trying to make peace between the Silurians and the humans. Mm-hmm. And she's trying to get the Silurians to understand that the world has changed since because the Silurians are this race has gone into hibernation for billions of years. They've emerged. They found that humans now populate the planet, and they want the planet back. And the Doctor's kind of trying to negotiate a settlement share, but the Brigadier he thinks the Brigadier is going to do the military thing and just antagonize a conflict, and he's kind of right. I mean, both sides tend to do, but it's like at the end, the Brigadier assures him, well, you can we'll secure the caves, and we'll just let the Silurians sleep. And then, as the Doctor's in the car, the Brigadier gives the order, blow the caves up, and the Doctor's betrayed by that. He's like, so he knows that he can't quite trust the Brigadier anymore.
Yeah, I think he doesn't like the brashness, does he? At times, that sort of just he'll do something without thinking to the Doctor.
Well, I think it's that the Brigadier does things from orders on high, and it's like the Doctor can't change his mind on that.
It's definitely a bit of the Doctor's used to going into a situation and everybody listening instantly and following him. So when the Brig's like, no, I'm going to do what I want, he's a bit just taken back, isn't he? A bit at the beginning, I'd say the Third Doctor.
Yes.
A bit like, why aren't you listening to me?
Yeah. We have one. He's assisted by Dr. Elizabeth Shaw in the beginning as the first companion, and so also a capable scientist in her own right.
She was drafted from Cambridge, I believe.
Yeah. Now, how do you think about the chemistry between them?
It's very different because when you watch Liz Shaw being introduced, you do get the sense she was meant to be the mainstay companion, and we're being introduced to the companion who's going to be there for the long haul. But she only really stays a season. It ends up being Jo who stays the long haul. Mm-hmm. So it's almost like we're being introduced to it's very different, definitely. But you do get the sense Liz is a bit like the Doctor in that she despises the Brigadier's authority. She kind of she sees the Brigadier as an old chauvinist who, and military authority, because she wants to. She resents being drafted, just like the Doctor kind of resents having to work with units. So, her and the Doctor have that common bond, don't they?
Yeah.
It's an instant bond of that's how that's their understanding.
Yeah, and they're both quite inquisitive minds, aren't they?
Yes.
So he sort of sees that in her and quite likes that. Yeah. And I think, he very much appreciates having that. For once, we have got, obviously, Ian and Barbara were teachers, but they weren't scientists. Yeah. So to have that sort of similar viewpoint a bit, he quite enjoys that aspect as well.
Mm-hmm. So, in the beginning, she's assisting the Doctor. There's immediately there's some connection between them. You can see that she doesn't like the. Yeah?
They work in the lab together quite well.
Yes, they work in the lab.
Yeah, they work together in the lab.
In the first story, there's some disparate in space. From space, they have the Steen invasion. Yeah. And immediately Liz is working hard and examined the Autumn leftovers.
Oh yeah, that's another thing. Because Liz is like she's not in usually with a companion, it's a culture shock to meet the Doctor and discover the existence of aliens. But it's the Brigadier who breaks her in first to the concept of aliens, and she's skeptical. She says, "Why are we going to be invaded anytime? Why are we going to be invaded now?" And the Brigadier is saying, "Well, the reason we're more likely to be invaded now is because we've been sending probes deep into space and we've drawn attention to ourselves."
Yeah.
And so she's kind of already being introduced to the idea of alien life when she meets the Doctor. So that kind of eases her over the culture shock, I think, of the Doctor's an alien. It's like, oh, they're aliens. Yeah, well, she knows already.
Talk about probes. I have watched in past. I have watched a sort of spin-off with Liz in it. Have you seen that?
I've not.
Probe. It was called Probe. The series.
Yeah, I know of it, but I've not seen it.
On Daily Motion, I saw it, and it goes about Liz, about her character, and that she set up a probe, also a sort of in investigations, scientific thing for alien things and so on. Yeah.
From
So
sounds it sounds like,
she's in some ways she's inspired by the Doctor to do the things like he does.
So is that like after she's left the show?
Yes, it was. But it was after the show. Yes, in the 80s there was some series, but you can I can don't know. You can look for that on Daily Motion, I think.
it's basically a series of fan films. I think it was by BBV.
Yeah.
They did quite a few.
Yeah. Liz often said that all the Doctor needed was someone to pass him his test tubes and tell him how brilliant he was. That is in Terror of the Autons. And yeah, that's there was sometimes he was some little bit of cynical to the Doctor in that in a subject, and it was also a story apart about that they have a parallel universe, and that he is another character in that, and you know that that was with
I know Inferno.
Inferno, yes.
Yeah, because they all played, didn't they? In that, like the Brig was an alternate universe. Yeah. They all, the main people we knew, and that was sort of the whole appeal of that story.
Yeah, and the Doctor says to the parallel version of Liz that you want to be a scientist all your life, isn't it? And then he says she's military, and she says yes, and deep inside I wanted to be a scientist. So that's very funny.
Yeah, that's the thing. When I watched that, it was like you really do picture a young Liz at college deciding her career, going ahead and doing her exams. It's like you really do envision, a life backstory to her, and she had her life was at a pivot then of which career to go to, and it was kind of you just imagine, it's like it's a great bit of characterization that kind of brings the character to life, I'd say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because of course, this is that in one universe she made the choice to be the scientist, and the other she joined the military, of course. But it was like something happened in her life that decided that.
Yeah, but it's like it's always been in her, that thing. It's just like you said, whichever way life has gone in one universe, it can go a bit different in the other.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then that's also Doctor Who. You can do parallel universes, and you can. It works in more. You have more franchises who works with parallel universes, and you can you can do a lot of things with that concept of parallel universes. So this is what one was. I think it was the first time the parallel universe was in the show, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. So it was very interesting to see that.
Yeah, but it was quite different when they brought it back with Russell. The whole concept.
Yeah, that's right. It must be good. It worked good. The script must and the writers must be good to work it good. Work it good in a good way. To work out in a good way. That's right.
Yeah. I think Inferno worked really well because it was kind of a surreal, almost a novelty idea of them all having this different life, but it's played with such conviction. And as the story unfolds, you realize, the brigade leader he's dead serious, and that's the thing. The brigade leader is a very different character to the brigadier. He's much more fanatical. He's much more cold. There's a warmth to the brigadier, but there's none to the brigade leader. He's just cold, quite frosty, ruthless figure, and he just so he's kind of completely. It feels like he's been completely indoctrinated to this state, and when it crumbles, he just kind of, when the world's about to end, he's just reduced to this cowardice. Whereas Liz's double, when the Doctor says, "Look, I have to leave. This world is doomed. I can't take any of you with me." She understands, and she's willing to sacrifice herself and save the Doctor's life so that he can go to save, the other world.
Yeah, and
it's a very brave moment for Liz.
Yes, it is also you can see also her personality and her skills in it in these things. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, she has a
And
very
all,
another thing about Liz.
yeah.
She has a very, very natural authority to her. Like when the doctor's kind of urging her to, and he's like still in the coma, but he's still voicing like the reversal systems. She goes to the base and she persuades Petra to countermand Professor Starman and just do it. She says, it's like she immediately assumes command and people just trust her and they go with her rather than Starman.
Oh, that's with that story with Recovery 7.
Oh no, that's the Inferno at the end of Inferno.
Okay.
Yeah, because the Doctor.
You're right. Yes.
Yeah, because at the end the Doctor's returned to our universe, but he's in this comatose state, and so he can only mutter a few, words about what he's seen happen. Liz is by his side. She hears him urging her to shut the drilling down, and so she goes. And when she arrives on the scene, then it's like she just has a natural authority that means people, basically she takes command very immediately.
Because obviously the Doctor can't at that moment, so she's sort of taking the Doctor's role almost.
Indeed.
Yes, she was, and that she could stand. She could work very well alone in that. She was very. She was not so dependent on the Doctor. She could work very well alone. Yet, you mean that by that?
Well, it's more that she's very good at taking charge.
Yeah. Or more the initiative.
Yes.
Company with initiative. Yes.
Yeah.
Because but by the way, for example, in Recovery 7, she was kidnapped, and then she was also forced to use her skills, but she was very capable to handle the situation in a good way. She was a strong example, strong story with Liz.
Oh, the Ambassador of Death, you mean?
Yeah, Ambassadors of Death. It was a very strong episode. I think she was very strong in that story. You could see very well her personality, her skills, very good.
Indeed. It's been many years since I've seen that one. I need to see it again, I think.
Also with Liz discovered that Professor Titalian and Sir James Quinlan received letters about her debts, and she works with a communication device with the Doctor. Also, and she sends an SOS to the Doctor, and then she's rescued. So that story, with the aliens in spacesuits.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was the plan of the producers and writers that she was for more than one season, but she is only one season. Is she available because I think she was pregnant by the end of.
Yeah, I think so. Also, I think also Barry Letts said that he felt that the problem with Liz was that she was so on the Doctor's level that she didn't really represent the audience. Like they felt they needed an audience identification figure who didn't get the signs and had to ask the Doctor. Because the problem with Liz, of course, is like if the Doctor's got this scientific explanation, this scientific theory, then she gets it. She doesn't need to ask him what it means because she knows what it means. So they'd have to have a companion who'd have to ask those questions so that the Doctor could explain it to the audience. So so that's why Barry Letts changed it. And she didn't really get a goodbye, did she?
No, not really.
No, I mean, at the end of Inferno, the Doctor thought that he was about to leave the planet. He thought like he finally had power of the TARDIS. So he did give her a parting goodbye, and he did say, "I shall miss you, Liz, but I've had all I can stand about the Brigadier." Sod him. And then of course he but then the dematerialization goes wrong, so he ends up stranded. But so he's stuck with them, but she departs off screen between seasons.
Yeah, sometimes in classic, it's like they didn't quite know how to make a companion have a goodbye.
No.
If like plans changed behind the scenes, it was a bit like, oh, we don't quite know how to write even just a little scene or something.
Like there was an episode. So there was a short story in the 1994 Doctor Who annual by Karen Stix called Reconnaissance, and this is it's like there isn't really a goodbye, but it's Liz. Basically, it's before Terror of the Autons, and she's up by herself in unit headquarters, and she's the master visitor, and he basically hypnotizes her, and he gets her to spill the beans about the Autons and the Silurians, and that's how the master gets the idea to use the Autons and later the Sea Devils in his later invasion plans. But she obviously, he leaves and she doesn't remember it happening. And I think there's a scene where she's about to say goodbye to the Doctor, but she says, "You know what? I'll just leave because I need to do my career. If I tell him, he's going to persuade me to stay. So I'll leave kind of by the side door without,
After one season, the Doctor was given a new assistant.
Yep.
That is Joe Grant.
Yep.
I think there's more to talk about that combination of the Doctor and companion, and more things to discuss about. In the past, we have discussed. I've listened to the past stream of the third Doctor, and Joe Grant was more highlighted than any other thing, but in more aspects in relation to the Doctor.
Yeah,
more interesting a character in more ways.
Yeah, because she's sort of the iconic companion to go with the third Doctor, isn't she, Joe?
She was with them the longest. She was.
Yeah.
They did 3 seasons together.
Yeah, and she was more bubblier. You know that's the term. I think more less scientific training than
Liz could be a bit uptight.
Yeah. So, but there was also done an development also in that time in the 70s for women. So you can see that also in the 60s the women have a different part in Doctor Who than in 70s. There's more different things. Yeah, there's also to do with society in general, I think. With feminism, I think. Can you say that or?
Well, you can definitely see with Jo, she'd be a bit more action heavy.
Yeah.
Even for the time, she would have a bit more go and like do this by yourself or sort of do this scene which could have a bit of stunts in it, as much as they could get away with, like back then. But there was a bit more of that with Jo.
Yeah.
I always got the sense Jo was a bit fickle. But you can see that over time that she learns from being with the Doctor. So like, she's not too slow on the uptake. She kind of once, the more the Doctor explains it, the more she gets it. And I think she does. By the end of her time, she's like a far smarter character than at the start.
And they also have developed during the tenure a great fondness for each other. You can see also.
Oh yeah, because at first he couldn't stand her. Like she kind of, the first time he meets her, she kind of spoils one of his science experiments, and he finds out that she kind of got the job because she has an uncle in the organization, and he got her the job, and he just feels he wants to kind of says I'd rather kind of I'd rather not work with her, but like the Brigadier kind of puts him on the spot and says, "Well, tell her to her face," and the Doctor can't do it. He can't, he can't like reject her. So they end up kind of, working together after all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you could definitely see it's almost just like an extra nuisance for him.
Yeah.
On top of the other stuff he has to deal with, Jo, because like you said, she comes in, she's quite sort of batty in a nice way. She's a bit daft. She's a bit naive, and you can just see, especially at the beginning, Pertwee's doctor's quite. I'd say he's uptight. He's a bit not. He's not quite learnt to get used to his situation. So then you put Joe in that, and it's just like, why have you sent this daft girl? Like, you can just see that's what he's thinking, probably. Like, why have you sent her to me?
He doesn't suffer fools gladly, does he?
No. And poor Joe is definitely a bit of, like I said, she's a bit batty, she's a bit ditzy,
Yeah.
God love her.
So she became a traveling companion to the Doctor and during one of missions for the Time Lords after his exile on Earth. So he's in during the time that he's exiled, and also on the time that he's the exile was entirely lifted. He was a companion of the Doctor. So she had some adventures outside Earth.
Yeah, they did. Let's see. There was colony in space. They had to go to a particular colony to stop the Master getting hold of a doomsday weapon. That was the first time the Doctor left Earth, and that was her first time off world.
Yeah.
Curse of Peladon. I think they were sent on another mission to Peladon to. There was an agreement of this line between the worlds of Earth and Peladon, I believe, and then of course for much of Series 10, it's basically they from the 3 Doctors onwards, the Doctor has complete free flight, so he's able to take on various adventures.
Yeah, and Joe sort of just have this quite wide-eyedness about her, doesn't she?
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that does soften him a little bit.
Yeah.
Because he likes to be that sort of introduction, doesn't he, to the universe, and he can very much be that with Joe. Because he does, for me, like the more you see him with her, it's almost like the granddad again. He's sort of reconnecting to that a bit.
Yeah.
But it's not the same as with Susan, but you can see he's starting to sort of have that youth around him again, and that sort of character like Joe. He does sort of come across very granddad-like. In some of the times he's sort of telling her off. You can see that sort of affection in the telling off there.
Yeah. One of the things I noticed about Jo Grant was, I think she's one of the most compassionate companions of the Doctor in general, because she proved so low to the Doctor to risk her own life, but also she was also compassionate about to care for others. And she's also treating people with respect. For instance, for that also the strange Alpha Centauri figure.
Also Alpha Centauri, yeah.
The Curse of Peladon.
Yeah.
And she was also ready to make peace with the Silurians. And Sea Devils. So she was on campaign who. Was also looking for to make bridges to people. If you know what I mean. She was very transparent, and Anna said it was also sometimes that was also her downfalls. For sometimes it was with me the people treated that knew that about her and then misused that or
naive. You mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was a bit too trusting at times.
Yes. So the one thing she wanted to be kind to others, but some people were not so.
Like in the Day of the Daleks, isn't it? That's when she lands in the future and she meets the Controller, and the Controller gives her the utopian take on what the future's like, and it's the Doctor who has to kind of just his bullshit detector goes off immediately. He says, the only reason you're so privileged is because someone's been kept down. And Joe doesn't quite get it until like the Doctor explains to her, look, the world is under a dictatorship now. This is, But she trusted the Controller, and in a way she kind of did see something good in the Controller, because the Controller does redeem himself in the end. But the Doctor, is the one who kind of exposed that he was lying at first.
Yeah. But also, so she was not always that she was following unit's orders. She was sometimes she did her own thing, follow her own instincts and speak her mind. Also to the Doctor. So she was also one that was transparent and honest about things, and did sometimes did her own thing, because she thought it was the best thing to do.
Yeah, right at the beginning, that's the case. She sneaks into the Mr. Farrell's toy department, and that's where she's immediately caught by the Master and hypnotized, and she's sent back as a double agent. But it's like she took a risk. She was very clumsy. She got caught right away. So,
and I remember something. She was also seen with the 11th Doctor.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, in the Sarah Jane. I can't remember what series it was, but it was the funeral episode for the Doctor. She was
the Death of the Doctor. Yeah.
I think it was series 4, that one. Series 4.
Yeah, with her grandson, and it was lovely because I remember that was my first time seeing Jo, and you just instantly took to her. This sort of lovely warmth, figure. He was just sort of a bit dazed even then at the situation, but you were very quick to take to her.
Yeah, but she was. I thought she was the same there as in the classics. In some way, she was the same person.
One thing I do really like about that episode was when Sarah Jane's at the funeral. It's a very quiet, somber affair. Jo kind of comes in a klutzy way, and immediately they start talking, and they're just immediately happy, reminiscing. And it's not part of the funeral procession, but you get the sense if the Doctor had died, this is what he would have wanted. He would have wanted, the companions to come together and, get to know each other and be happy that they'd known the Doctor.
Yeah, it's sort of, I think what Russell was, because I think Russell might have written the episode as well. It was this idea of the Doctor being the connecting point, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Between these Sarah Jane and Jo. And it was like they both sort of said, we both have had this crazy life and nobody else can understand that except from us. Yeah. So it was sort of Russell, I think, trying to show that a bit.
Yeah.
We discussed it earlier in previous live stream that I noticed some romance between the Doctor and this companion in some way. So more fondness than because you can see also the reaction of the Doctor and when Jo decides to go on to spend her life with Clifford Jones. In the end.
I think that's more.
I noticed some disappointment in him because he thought he could always travel with her, and I think there was more than only to say goodbye and not seeing her anymore, but also more of disappointment in a relationship.
I think it was more for me. I see it as more fatherly than maybe kind of anything romantic. I do anyway. I think it was more that he wanted Jo to go with the right person, but he also, I just say, it was more kind of he missed their company as a friend, and he felt like now that she was with Jones, then that's my feeling. I don't know. I mean, some interpret it as romantic. I feel like it's more fatherly jealousy.
I've heard both sides. That some have said, it's a bit romantic because obviously.
Yeah.
The fella that Jo leaves with has got some similar traits, like very sort of obviously not exactly the Doctor, but close enough. Yeah. But I think from the stuff I've seen in that era, it is to me more of a familial sort of having to let go of Jo, and it's like he really enjoyed being around her, and I think he enjoyed that sort of fresh, youthful look at the universe. And he really enjoyed having that, and having that go is something he's not quite ready for as well. It honestly comes across a bit like, to compare it to Susan's exit, it feels like with Susan, the Doctor was almost ready for her to fly the coop. He was sort of prepared already for it. He was just waiting, in a sense, for it to happen. Whereas with Joe, I think it's a shock to him. He's not ready for her to go yet. So when she does say it, it's a bit of a, oh, okay. I really thought we were going to still have quite a few years as just being Doctor and companion.
Yeah.
Do you think also it's almost in a way the Doctor's almost being reminded that he's it's like for a moment, like when he was with Joe, he felt like almost like the separation. The fact she's going with Clifford almost reminds him that he's the alien outsider again, and he's kind of almost quite
probably, yeah, because you've got to think in unit he is. It took a while, but he did build a family.
Yeah,
and seeing that family go, because we still don't know a lot, but we especially didn't know a lot in the classic era at that point. What he'd left behind at Gallifrey and like how close he was to his family. So maybe it's losing the family again, which he obviously had to go through in some fashion at the beginning. Having to deal with that so quickly or soon is a bit of a shock to him.
Yeah. Also, I've got a bit of a theory. Do you think, because the thing about Jo is she was very kind of naive and trusting and very kind of, honest to a fault. And I think, because I do feel in some ways that after the Silurians, the Doctor kind of seen the Brigadier be quite deceptive and ruthless. And it was almost like it was maybe a bit of a shatter to his faith in humanity. Maybe in a way Jo was him kind of, she kind of restored it in him because she was so trusting and so trustworthy.
Yeah, sort of her being the light or the hope a bit.
Yeah. And she did say of Clifford Jones that she, like, firstly, she believed in his cause because, Clifford Jones was about, he had the environmentalist cause. And so Jo had a lot of political interest. And she did even say to the Doctor, this Clifford Jones, he reminds me almost of a younger you.
Yeah.
And so there's that kind of other side to Jo. So there's that kind of dimension to Jo, if you know what I mean.
So that Jo marries Clifford Jones.
Yeah.
Then that's we see the Doctor leave in his car. A little bit very sad. And then
there's a DVD commentary on that story with Katie Manning, and Katie actually kind of wells up quite emotionally at that because she's seeing John, his best acting, and obviously John's no longer with us, so she got very, very upset watching that. It was kind of quite poignant.
Well, we sort of learnt, didn't we, a lot of years after the fact, that John losing both Delgado and Joe, in a sense, really got to him, like really impacted him, didn't it? Yeah. We've heard, like I said, I don't know if his son has told us, or other people have said, yeah, you could see after that Joe going and Delgado obviously tragically being killed, it was like he sort of lost a bit of his shine in the show because he sort of, that unit had gone and he was so sort of despondent a little bit. So that's why I think that was his ultimate turning point also for leaving. Not when he did, it was like Joe going and losing the Master, or he was Delgado, he was such a good friend and such a good sparring partner on screen, really got to him.
Yeah, I do know that him and Delgado were close. I know there's a scene in the Sea Devils where they have to do this scene on a hovercraft, and Delgado had a real phobia of water and going out into the sea, and so he was quite nervous. And I think one of the crew was teasing him about being so shaky and John got really defensive. You don't know how brave it was for him to come out onto this boat. He's been very brave. Leave him alone, kind of thing.
Yes, it is also noticeable that it was also the era that the master was introduced.
Which? The master.
In this the third Doctor.
Yeah, that jackanapes. All he does is cause trouble.
Yes, you can see that also that that had a very great impact. The death of Delgado in the series. You see that in the eyes of in all the things on John Pertwee. But after Joe Grant, we have a very interesting companion.
Yep.
Very interesting companion because she had their own spin-off series at the end. She's also on companion who have I think have met the most incarnations of the Doctor. I think
because she would have met Pertwee, Baker, Tennant, Smith.
Yeah, and she's also mentioned in audio series with other Doctors. Even the first Doctor, the second Doctor, fifth Doctor, seventh Doctor, and eighth Doctors. So she has in total 9 Doctors. That's very few.
Yep.
So and there's a lot of things to talk about Sarah Jane Smith. But on screen we have seen most of her on third and fourth Doctor. There's another relationship between her and third Doctor than on the fourth Doctor. But it's just another for another time. The fourth Doctor in relation to her to that Doctor. But this Doctor is another. You can see. Is there some difference between the third and fourth Doctor? With relationship to the Doctor, or?
I'd say so. I mean, I think obviously when she
In
first.
What way?
Well, I mean, at first she's very distrustful of this Doctor, isn't she?
Mm-hmm.
In the Time Warrior, she thinks the Doctor's her abductor. She lands up in where was it? What was the setting? It was.
It's English, isn't it? It's old English history. I can't think of what time.
My history is hopeless.
I want to say like Tudors or something like that, like quite kings and sort of.
It does come across as very feudal, yeah.
Yeah, that's why I'm trying to think what time period it is now.
It was. It was the Wikipedia.
Yeah, the fun of the internet, folks. The fun of the internet.
Okay. It was medieval.
It was medieval, yeah. That's a good term we can use if we don't know the actual time period.
Because she
yeah.
Oh, it's like she kind of cheats her way into getting access to because she's basically a journalist and she's cheated her way to getting close to the journalists, but close to the scientists by basically recreating her is it her Aunt Lavinia's entry paper. So it's actually like and the Doctor kind of susses it, says, "You must have been 2 years old when you wrote that." It's like, but he agreed to keep her secret, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But then she kind of finds herself in the TARDIS when he goes back to medieval times to find the scientists, and she feels like she ends up kind of dragged away by various bandits, and she kind of thinks the Doctor's the villain of the piece. She thinks he's the one who's abducting the scientists. And there's actually a moment where she gives a speech to one of the rival lords, and she's saying she gives a speech about how to go on the offensive. And and basically even the king says, like, if I had 1,000 girls of the spirit of yours, like heart of a lion, then I could, I do well, but like I don't have anyone of your spirit.
Yeah, I think Sarah Jane was on purpose. It's always come across to me. She was a contrast to Joe in lots of ways on purpose. They wanted a much more career woman with the journalism angle, a lot more of a forthrightness that Joe did have, but it wasn't one of her known traits, I would say.
Yeah.
Whereas with Sarah Jane, it's sort of a big part of her personality. And like you said, they wanted that sort of friction a little bit between her and the Third Doctor. When with Joe, it wasn't really any friction from her end. It was more the Doctor's end, whereas here it was definitely Sarah Jane. Sort of like you said, being a bit unsure of him and a bit having him almost having to win her over.
Yeah.
So I think the producers were very sort of clever with how they set up Sarah Jane.
Yeah. That's right. I think she was on the right time, the right place in the show. It was really a change for the show, contrast to Joe. Yeah, I agree. With the exception of K9, the robot dog, Sarah spent most of her life alone after traveling with him, but maintained previous friendship with unit staff all the time. And we can see that in the whole story of Sarah Jane, that she keeps having contact with unit and all things, and she was always hoping to. After she traveled with the Doctor, she always hoped that someday the Doctor would come back to her. She was always hopeful that she will continue with the adventures she had. And yeah, you can also see that in her own spin-off series that she is continuing in some alien adventures, and it's called Sarah Jane Adventures. It was seen on BC3, I think, CBBS or
CBBC, I think it was
yeah,
mainly on.
CBBC. It was a spin-off. I've seen all the 5 seasons. I think it was 5 seasons of Sarah Jane Adventures, and yeah, she is also there as a journalist, but she also has some friends, and she has also some adventures with aliens in that spin-off. So, and I think it's brilliant done, that series, because you see same Sarah Jane Smith as in the classics. She still continues in the same spirit that she had. She had more experienced, but yeah, I think the experience with the Doctor helped her and inspired her to do these things, these challenging things in this spin-off series of Sarah Jane Adventures. Have you seen the Sarah Jane Adventures, by the way?
Yes, but it was a long time ago.
Yes, a long time ago. Was she well worked out in this series? I think, or was she in comparison to the classic? Was she still the same for you, or were there some differences? Because I think she was very well the same in some mostly.
I thought she was a bit too weepy in the Sarah Jane Adventures.
Okay, more emotional.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
old Sarah's a bit more steely, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I
see,
mean-
I would argue I'd say that's more to do with the big episode in New Who when she came back.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I watched that first, so I didn't know the classic sort of background so much to her.
Mhm.
And then once I watched some more classic,
Yeah.
I can understand why some fans were a bit out, sort of, they weren't quite happy with how she was portrayed in School Reunion, with that sort of almost doughy-eyed, sappy sort of waiting for the Doctor to come back sort of attitude a little bit they gave her.
Mm-hmm.
Because like I said, I think in Classic, she is quite. She can be emotional, but she hides it. I would argue more in Classic.
Yeah.
It's sort of she sort of purposely keeps that sort of tucked away that side.
Yeah.
She's very steely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think like I would say she's more of the sign of obviously the feminism and the changes in sort of British society than Jo was. Because I think Sarah Jane definitely was showing women were sort of challenging stereotypes a bit, and were trying to show, no, we can do certain fields and we can do certain things just as well or better. But the difference was also with Classic, they didn't overwrite it in that fashion. They just wrote a female character who happened to be a journalist and was quite good at it, and didn't back down. They didn't like go on about it all the time. They just wrote her like that.
Yeah.
It was a trait. It was a trait that was utilized well, and other traits kind of would show through it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a rod.
Yeah, well, you also know that she has had risen to become one of the top journalists in the UK. So she also has a successful career as a journalist, also in the Sarah Jane Adventures. I think it was also thanks to her passion for investigation that she became one of the best. It's also a credit to the Doctor. But all the time, all the while, she hoped that she would run into the Doctor again. You can see that all the way in her during her life, that she always was hopeful, and I just said, and that's one of the big inspirations for her to do his work.
Yeah, she always had an optimism to her. That's very often.
We also see that she had a computer based named Mr. Smith.
Yeah, that had an ongoing argument with K9, and I loved it whenever they showed that.
Yeah. There was also a crossover in one of the Doctor Who specials. By the way, nice crossover. There was Torchwood, and there was Sarah Jane Adventures also. In one,
because in Journey's End, obviously, it was Russell's big look at all these things I've built sort of episode.
All the franchise. So it was very funny to see Gwen Cooper, for instance, and Luke and Sarah Jane.
Oh yeah,
all these characters.
Or when Jack, I loved it when Jack saluted her, and she was just like, "Stop! Like, don't do that."
Yes, he was also a little bit charming to her.
Well, but what was fun there was John was a fan, so you can just see in that scene that's not Jack, that is just John being like fanning out that Sarah Jane is in the scene with him.
Yeah, that's right. I think that's more than only playing the role, but it has admiration. Yeah, admiration.
Because he grew up during the Classic, so he adored her from Classic.
Yeah.
And he was just like, wow, I'm here with one of my idols.
One of my favorites.
Yeah.
That's right. And she also works together with some teenagers, Clyde, for instance, and Rani. Yeah. I thought, by the way, that they will have plans to make a series with Rani. I think I read that a time ago. When one of the companions of Sarah Jane, Rani,
I know
to do a series.
I know. Her. I don't know. Big Finish have done something, or like she has popped up in other Doctor Who stuff. That character.
Look, actually.
Because I think she became like a journalist or something, or she became something a bit in the vein of Sarah Jane.
Yeah, she's inspired by Sarah Jane because Sarah Jane has died, and she's so inspired by her that she wanted to do also the same work. You can see it also in the series of Sarah Jane Adventures that Ronnie is very interested in the job of a journalist.
It'd be hard though, because that actress is now doing lots of work.
Mhm.
To probably do a
Oh.
series now.
There is actually, it's let's see, the World of Doctor Who special releases. Rani Takes on the World, Beyond Bannerman Road.
Yeah. That's
It's not out yet. It's available
Oh.
April 2023.
Yeah, I knew Big Finish were doing something. I couldn't quite remember what it was.
Yeah, in light of the Sarah Jane.
Well, that actress has been working for a while for Big Finish,
Mhm.
just not as Rani. She's been doing other
Okay.
roles.
More roles.
Anjali Mahindra.
What's her real name? Of Rani?
Anjali Mahindra.
Mahindra.
No, she considering like I saw her as a kid because she was very young. She's become a proper good actress now. I've seen her in like dramas in quite a few of them.
Further, we know that the Sarah Jane is that her parents died early.
Oh yes.
We call that in
those in the episode was what was it called?
The Temptation of Sarah Jane Smith.
That's it. Yeah, Temptation.
Yeah.
Yeah, you had the Trickster, which was a brilliant villain.
Mm-hmm. And she can prevent that her parents died, and then everything became different.
Yeah, basically, I think that was it. It was originally they died.
Alternate timeline. That's it.
Yeah, originally they died in a car crash, and Sarah basically fixed the motor so that they wouldn't die. But obviously that caused that gave the Trickster power to conquer the planet in the future. And I think at that point, like young Sarah Jane was just a baby at that point, so like she actually never got to know her parents.
Yeah, that's right.
And then, so she was tempted by the prospect of getting to know them. Then when she got to know them, she was tempted by the prospect of being able to save them. And because she said she felt at that point, she even said, I've always done the decent thing. I've always done what the Doctor says and done the decent thing. Is like I feel like I deserve a reward for this. This is my reward. Is I get to save my parents. I've done the selfless thing all my life. This is now my turn to to be selfish. But obviously it goes wrong, and she does in the end do the right thing, and she just tells her parents the truth, and she sacrifices them again. Well, they sacrifice themselves, and really.
Yeah, the only thing is that she wins is that she had met her parents.
Yeah.
Before they said she never knew their parents because she was a baby. Yeah. I suppose what we know is that Sarah was raised by her aunt. And she had in her childhood she developed a fear of clowns.
Yeah.
Because for example, the Day of the Clown, that was the episode with the actor.
Was it Julian Beach or was it? What was it? Julian Beach, I think. It was Julian Bleach, I think.
Another actor.
You guys are way better with names of classic era than me.
Was it Bradley Walsh in that? No, it wasn't.
Yeah, Bradley Walsh.
Bradley Walsh was in Sarah Jane Adventures.
Yeah, that was the clown.
Oh.
Yeah, but that was Sarah Jane when he was like a ringmaster.
Yeah.
And he played a really good villain.
Yes.
So it was the Pied Piper, I think.
Yeah, it was a bit of it as well because he had balloons, so they chucked a load of like well-known tropes together for his character.
And Clyde beats him by delivering some of the most hoariest jokes he can.
Yes.
Which excels at.
Mm-hmm. So in relation to the Third Doctor, we can. Are there more things that is typical for a relation to a Third Doctor, or
Well, it's always kind of. He takes a while to get used to, for I think most companions, and obviously he's quite grumpy and uptight at first, but gradually he softens to them. He always does in the end. To each new companion, I mean.
Yeah.
And they both willing to lay down their life for each other in the end.
Yeah, I would say just the main difference is a bit more butting heads, because she would with Tom, but it was still like this air of they're having fun with Tom's doctor. Whereas with John, it was a bit more just, no, I just disagree with you, butting heads.
Yeah.
I would say.
And by the time that she meets the Third Doctor, she's 23 at the time. About 23.
But Liz looks about 16. She looks so young in Pertwee's run.
And also Sarah Jane is also was, I think, in the beginning a stowaway in the TARDIS. In Time Warrior.
Yeah.
It was not with voluntarily that she traveled in the TARDIS. It was by accident that she was stowaway.
Yeah, she sneaks in somehow.
Yeah, she sneaks then she has her first story with Santorans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, links to Santoran, who
So she traveled with the time with the Doctor to the 13th century in another time warrior.
Yep.
And then there was some disappearing scientists, including Rubish.
Yep.
And you can see that also is some there is some what do you call it? She thinks the Doctor is on the bedside in the beginning.
Yeah.
That was the first story with her, and then she discovers that the Doctor is on her side, and then everything is falling into place.
Yeah, I really enjoy the Time Warrior. I'd say it's one of my favorite Pertwees.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, you do see, like, in that, even though John Pertwee was kind of nearing the end, there's just a kind of, there's a real, you can tell he really enjoyed doing that story. Mm-hmm. You know, kind of, it just really comes alive in that story. It's just it's a good showing for him.
Yeah. So he was more aware in his element, you mean, or?
Oh yeah, I think it would have been great if he'd done more historicals, because it seemed like he really enjoyed doing that.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think Pertwee liked the historicals.
Yeah.
When he could sort of do a bit more of the daring sort of his either sword fighting or Aikido, whatever it was, like he enjoyed when he could show that more side to him.
Yeah. Venusian Aikido.
Yeah, that one.
Sarah was also eager to come back to Earth, expecting Doctor to set the TARDIS course to the Scientific Research Center, but all the time Doctor's on no point in going back. Because he wanted to do his own thing, and he wanted nothing to do with a unit anymore, because he wanted to do his own thing now.
Yeah, he was fed up. He was fed up of looking at the same four walls. He wanted to get out.
Yes, that's right. And then the Doctor and Sarah finally arrived in 1970s London to find out it was been evacuated because of the dinosaurs.
Yeah.
And the dinosaurs were brought by London by a time machine. They've developed. It's also a very exciting story, because they don't know what happened to the Earth.
But, yeah, because
was one room.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
basically, the scientists are using the dinosaurs to basically scare the populace away from London, so they can basically. They have this plan that they're going to travel back in time to the golden period because they're so disillusioned in the modern world, and I think Sarah ends up with them. She basically, I think she gets a blow to the head, and when she wakes up, she's introduced to the crew, and that she's told they're on this spaceship to this new planet, and so she's kind of slowly figuring out she's being tricked. But she's also shown a lot of kind of TV, propaganda from this particular fringe group, and she's the one who has to kind of wake up everyone to the fact that they're that basically London is they need to stay. Basically, they can't go on this trip back in time.
Yeah. And
So it's that inquisitive thing again. It's that if things don't make sense, she figures out, look, something's wrong here.
Yeah, that's right. That's one of their character things. She's always curious and investigates things.
Yeah.
Wants to go with the meaning of things. Want to know the meaning of things. Why do we do this? And she wants to know the whole situation. Why the doctor do the things he does.
Yeah,
Yes, that's right.
she loves mysteries, doesn't she?
Yeah.
And the Doctor is a big old mystery. I think at the beginning a lot to her.
Mm-hmm. That's right. That's ook one of the things. This character is very interesting, Sarah Jane, because she has that. She always. I think she's one of the companions who can really touch a doctor deep inside. Capable to find the right way to approach the doctor and what incarnation he is. She always knows some. She can make really easy and make a bridge to the doctor. Can look deep inside the doctor. She's capable of that because she has that investigate thing in her. She and because she's so curious in things and want to have adventures with him. And she knows more the doctor than all her companions, I think.
Yeah.
More
Yeah,
the psychological thing of the doctor.
Obviously, you see a lot more in Tom's Doctor with the whole my dear Sarah Jane. That sort of saying becomes how a lot of doctors then after him refer to her. So she has definitely got, I think, a special part or spot in the Doctor's heart.
Yeah.
But once again, I don't think it's romantic. I think it's just sort of, like you said, she can see a lot of what he's trying to hide emotionally at times, and a lot of what he's trying to just sort of not show on the surface.
Yeah.
You mean like she can translate his eccentricities.
Yes.
She knows what he means. Why?
And she knows how to deal with it.
Yeah, this that's why I love that moment with the 10th Doctor when he's sort of all the companions, they've dealt with the big threat. It's the end of the episode, and they're going off, and he's sort of just looking, and you can see he's a bit upset. He's a bit just, I had everybody together again, and now they're leaving me. And she I love that line when she says, "You act like you haven't got a family, but you've got the biggest one in the universe."
Yeah.
And I think then you can see he sort of perks up a bit. Yeah. But it takes her to say that to him, to sort of get him out of his sort of depression a little bit, and sort of say, yes, they might not be here all the time, but you have us all. And that's brilliant and unique, and you should just be happy a bit about that.
Yeah. She knows how to be deep in the skin of the Doctor. She knows to say the right things in the right time to her, and she can make things that she can move the Doctor in things more than the other, I think. Yeah. She's capable of doing that to bring the Doctor to higher levels, but also to think about himself more deeply. Yeah.
I think you even see that with John's line when he is regenerating.
Mm-hmm.
When he says, "Oh, a tear for me, Sarah Jane." It's such a lovely little line. You can see
Yeah,
it even
that's
there.
very good.
And that's the regeneration scene, because that's where she's horrified that that he did this. She says, "Why did you do this?" And he said, "Look, I had to face my fear. Like that was more important than going on living." And that's like, that was the deciding point for him. But she's coming to terms with that.
Yeah, and I think it's why I do like it when we do now and again get a companion that goes through a regeneration and like has to readjust themselves almost. And yeah, you can definitely see it in the Planet. She's very upset. She's very sort of really doesn't quite know what's happening. It's like she sort of gets the hint that he's going to be okay, but she's still very upset with what's happening.
It's been a blow to her usual optimism. It's like she's really anxious. It's like it's almost like she's got a bad feeling about it.
Yeah, because I don't think the Doctor fully explains to her, does he? She sort of just has this sense that something's going to change, but she doesn't quite know what. And I don't know what you guys have thought. I've often thought that John's regeneration does look quite close to a death almost, the way it's shot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the way John looks, it is a bit like, oh, this looks quite like close to almost what somebody dying would almost look like, more than Troughton or more than Bill.
Yeah. I would agree with that. It's like I think if, in a way, it's softened by the Five Doctors, but I think if the Five Doctors hadn't happened and that was just the last we saw of Pertwee, that would have really felt like a death, definitely. The kind of, that was like our last memory of him, kind of thing.
Yeah, because I'm just thinking now it's done. It's like because he's on the ground, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's sort of the breathing's getting slower, and he looks really pale. I don't know if that's makeup, but to me, he always comes across looking very pale and quite weak in that moment.
It's a bit where he's coming out the TARDIS and he collapses, and it's like it's just he just doesn't have the stamina he did, kind of thing. Yeah. Can't imagine what would have been like to see that at the time.
There's also a second story of the Paladin we mentioned earlier. Of course, Paladin. This was the monster Paladin, and then Sarah is going to Paladin with the Doctor. And she was also that she was more not so naive as Joe in that story. More again that in more that the questionable investigative thing that she had.
It
was also with the new chancellor and Gibbick.
Yeah, because the thing in that story, I think there's a traitor working with the Ice Warriors to take over the Paladin group.
Yeah, and there was also Queen. And Sarah Jane learns some things about women to Queen Italy.
Yeah,
that's also
John's Doctor basically tells the Queen, like, Sarah needs to explain to you about women's lib.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, that's your department, Liz.
He was very like upper class, wasn't he? In that sense, like, yeah, you talk about that stuff.
Yeah. More with the Third Doctor.
Death of the Daleks.
Also, that she was there. There's also the story of that Mike Yates betrays things.
Yeah,
He's sent away from unit, and she has very much difficulty with it.
yeah.
Because
It's
she knows. She's one of the people who think, Mike was not really involved, but she was more understandable about the whole situation with Mike Yates, I
Yeah.
think,
yeah, because that's
because
in
of the whole thing.
in the
Yeah.
Invasion of the Dinosaurs. That's where
Yeah.
like I said, there was that group of scientists who wanted to go back to the Golden Age and were disillusioned. Mike gets drawn into them, and it's not quite clear how, but he's just somewhere along the line he's become disillusioned about the world, and he's fallen in with that group, and he's basically become the mole into what Una up to.
Yeah.
But he does take a stand when the scientists basically trap the Doctor with the dinosaur, and that's when Mike protests and says, "You didn't tell me you're going to endanger the Doctor." And at some point, I don't remember how it ends, but I know that at the end, obviously, Mike has become disillusioned with that group, and he goes on that rehabilitation, and that's when he falls in with the Buddhists.
Hmm.
And which I remember someone saying that's quite a character development over the classic show.
And we already mentioned it in the story of Planet of the Spiders, and the story of Third Doctor, and how that relates to Sarah Jane Smith, also mostly in the final scene. And then Count Poe arrived and helped to trigger his regeneration into his next incarnation, and now telling Sarah to look after him. And then we see then the famous scene to the fourth Doctor. But that is a subject for another live stream, and then we continue with Sarah Jane, but in relation to the fourth Doctor.
Really looking forward to that one.
And we look forward to that one. Yes, that's right.
Sudoku's favorite time of Doctor
Yeah.
Who.
Indeed.
Mm-hmm. But sadly, it is Sarah Jane. The character Elizabeth Sladen is not with us anymore.
No.
Yeah, it was not so well. She near 60s, I think. That she died. She was from 1951, and she died in
2011. It was.
Yeah.
Because I remember there was a dedication.
She was 60.
Yeah, because there was a dedication to at the beginning of the Impossible Astronaut, wasn't there? There's like a memory of her.
Yeah. But what was the best combination for you? With Third Doctor, was it Liz or Joe or Sarah Jane? You think? What do you think? What was for you the best combination?
I'm fond of Liz and Joe, the Doctor and Sarah.
Yeah, for me, I think it is the Third Doctor and Joe, because I like how they're opposites a bit. I like how he gradually comes to be quite protective and quite sort of close. And then I think also it does add a lot, the fact that she does decide to leave the way she does. I think that adds a lot to just the whole story that they have together. So mine would be Joe.
Yeah. I think the combination for Doctor and Sarah Jane is works more for me than the combination with Sarah Jane and the Third Doctor, and I think and then we'll go for Joe also because of that, because the combination for Doctor and Sarah Jane is better for me.
So Joe wins.
Joe wins. But mainly because she's not. I think it is because she's bubbly.
Yeah.
For me, it's not so difficult character. Not so was an easy character for her to watch.
Yeah, and you can tell that's just Katie's personality.
Yeah.
You can tell she's just being her a bit.
Yeah.
Because she's lovely
Yeah.
in the fandom, and she's so warm and just this
Yeah.
bubble of just energy.
Yeah. She's always on conventions, I think. Or
Yeah, and
or
social
maybe
media
fan,
and social media, but she's done loads of conventions and she does like a lot of stuff for the Blu-rays.
Oh, and Joe Grant is also on in combination with Sarah Jane in a special. I almost forgot it.
Oh no, we did that.
They met each other.
Yeah, and with in the funeral, the death of the doctor.
Yeah. So then they know each other already, and they have some. They talk about the doctor, and they have some. They recognize some things about the doctor, and they laugh about it. It was a very funny scene.
Yeah, that was the first meeting. It's like I think. Like Sarah even said at the time, I think we just missed each other because you were going out while I came in. So I do know Joe. Katie Manning and Elizabeth Sladen were quite close toward the end, and she knew about the, that Sarah had. Liz was ill.
Yeah, because the fandom had no idea with Liz. Yeah. But it would make sense that she had quite a few, didn't she, Liz, friends on the show that she kept quite close with.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think we've talked enough about the complaints of the third Doctor, because there were only 3 in during this era. Besides Unit. We talked earlier about the chemistry between the Doctor and the Master in this. You can see also they had fun in the roles of the. You can also feel the friendship between them, and the respect they had, and it worked so very well. And what you already said, Charlotte, that and when Delgado died, so in a car crash, I think.
Yes, it was an accident or a crash.
And that the whole chemistry was a little bit. He was a little bit disturbed in his own things. He was looking for a new way to be the Doctor, and I think Sarah Jane, the character, but also the person, Elizabeth Sladen helped him a little bit to gain that back a little bit. I think so. It is very important the choice of Sarah Jane. I think in that case. Yeah.
Yeah, both for John and the show.
Yeah, for the show. But, John was 5 seasons.
5, yes.
Yeah, 5 seasons, and most of the time he was with Joe. Yeah. So that's. I think, and what also what Sadek also was mentioned was about you can always see in DVD some bonus things, and what they say about John Pertwee is that he was always making the people comfortable and better. So all the characters, the companions who he worked with in the series. There was also in private there was a good relation, so you can see that they had fun with each other, with all the actors on the set, and that worked very well. That's why this Doctor is very good doing working with other companions, because he is also in private. So in private he is also that in that way is he waving and.
Yeah,
this Doctor is one of the doctors that can work with all companions over all the time. I think the third Doctor, because of his character.
Yeah, and
Because
also
of the person, John Pertwee.
and John was sort of a gentleman by all
Yeah.
accounts. So
Yeah.
he very much almost took it as I'm sort of the lead, but because I'm the older, I'm the more experienced actor, I need to sort of help and shepherd.
Yeah.
I think that's how John honestly saw a big
Yeah.
part of his role, just beyond playing the Doctor.
Yeah.
He was like,
And he
no, I
was
need to be the gentleman, I need to help, I need to sort of be
Yeah.
the protective figure a little bit on set.
Yeah. He was capable to make the other actors a star. So
I believe
yeah.
when they did the Three Doctors, Troughton was quite Troughton's a bit of a naughty prankster, and so I think that John kind of felt like they need to like he kind of kept Katie Manning under his wing, and he kind of thought that Troughton was kind of mad, bad, and dangerous to know.
Yes.
Yeah. I think that we will end this stream because I think there's not more to say about the companions of this Doctor. And next time we do the Fourth Doctor.
Oh yeah. Will there be a? So I was wondering, are you going to do a stream on the TIJD finale or not?
Yes, for next week on Monday we do that.
Okay.
I don't know how long it will be the live stream of next week. I think it will be a short stream. I don't know of are any people available for panel.
I'll know can't get my words out. I'll know closer to the time because I might be on Knoll that day. I don't know.
I don't know. So once I'm gonna look for it, maybe I will do. When I don't know which people are available for the live stream next week. Yeah, I can do a live stream about and I give my own opinion on my own, but maybe there are some people who can give their opinion. I don't know, but I think it's not not a good idea to do the Four Doctor next week because there people are full of the season's finale, and I'm also full of that. I think I want to talk about that, and then the week after that continue with this series.
Yeah, I think the fandom's going to go a bit crazy.
Yes, I've heard,
after Sunday.
yeah, because it's their regeneration. Yeah, we all celebrate, and we all curious about what the outcome will be.
And I've got a feeling Russell's not going to wait long to
No.
start to show what he wants to do. I
Yes.
think they're going to straight away, as soon as they can, start to advertise the 60th. Is my feeling.
Yep. So that's the plan. Next week I will do a stream on the season's finale, specials finale, and then the week after that I continue with the series for Doctor, campaigns for Doctor. That's the plan.
Excellent.
So I want to thank you both for this time.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
I hope that you will enjoy the special, or if you don't look, then certainly will enjoy the things about the special. No, you are free to watch or not to watch. But I'm curious.
I'm looking forward to the last minute. I can guarantee that much.
Yeah, I think that the most watched time is the last 10 minutes or so.
Oh yeah, there'll probably be a massive spike.
And then I think most people will watch also. I think that the regeneration scene will be placed on YouTube. I think short after.
Yeah,
I guess.
Apparently on the YouTube now they're re-uploading regeneration scenes, so that seems to be a bit of preparation.
So we are very excited. What the outcome will be, the story will be. So now, thank you both, and everyone have a nice week. And for now, bye bye. Doei.
Bye bye.